With the new Silent Hill film, Return to Silent Hill, dropping any day now, maybe? Now feels like the perfect time to do a video talking about the first two films, Silent Hill and Silent Hill Revelation. Two movies that are an adaptation of the beloved video game franchise, one of which is one of my personal favorite movies. One. Before I get too far into this video, I of course have to do a massive disclaimer. I am going to be talking about the movies and the video games, mainly the first and third games, and I'm going to be spoiling everything. Also, in case you were not aware, this franchise contains every possible potentially triggering subject matter. I mean, I am talking abuse, child abuse, murder, assault, child assault, like literally everything. If it is something that can upset you, it's probably in here somewhere. Granted, I feel like anyone who clicked on this video after seeing like the title and the thumbnail probably already gets that, but I just still want to do my due diligence and give a disclaimer. If any of this subject matter makes you uncomfortable, please go click elsewhere, and I hope you have a lovely day. But if you're still here and you're willing to hang out, let's get into it. The first Silent Hill movie is based on, unsurprisingly, the first Silent Hill game. Both follow the same basic storyline. Parent and adopted daughter in car crashes, parent knocked out, wakes up to find kid gone, proceed into spooky town to find said kid, monsters happen, cult exists, they want kid is actually half the soul of a different magic demon kid, that kid burned and her mom was involved, burned kid didn't die but did some magic-y stuff and summoned your kid, which is actually part of itself, now punch everyone and steal your kid back. The end. Super simple, right? Okay, so let's take this a little bit more slowly. Instead of just recapping each piece of media separately, I'm actually going to bounce between them, that way we can talk about the changes as they are encountered. I know that this might come across as messy, and apologies if so, but to me this feels a lot more straightforward than asking you to remember every single thing that happened as we then move on to each preceding piece. So let's jump into it. Right off the bat, the biggest difference people will note is that while the game follows Dad of the Year Harry Mason, the movie follows the mom, Rose. Now, Harry's wife is named Jodie in the game universe, but for some reason they went with Rose here. Also, Harry is called Christopher in the movie instead of Harry. I don't know why they changed everybody's names, but they did. Also, your daughter, instead of being named Cheryl, is Sharon. Again, I don't know why, but there's that. Anyway, Rose/Jodie and Christopher/Harry have their adopted daughter, Sharon/Cheryl, and Sharon is having a bad time. She's been plagued by nightmares lately that are causing her to sleepwalk in super dangerous ways, and those nightmares are also beckoning her to Silent Hill. Rose and Chris argue about what to do, with Rose wanting to take Sharon to Silent Hill to figure out what's happening, while Christopher disagrees. Eventually, Rose just takes, cough cough, kidnaps, Sharon, and they start their trip. This added scene of Rose and Sharon is super pretty and also feels genuine. The relationship between them feels grounded and real, and I just adore that in this video game adaptation, made back when adaptations were not taken seriously, these actors did some real work. Also, the constant religious imagery paints some nice foreshadowing and adds some gentle tension. Nothing says horror quite like religion, am I right? Yeah. Anyway, they drive for a while, and when Rose stops the car to get gas, she flips through Sharon's sketchbook to find a bunch of messed up demon scribbles. Sharon wakes up and claims she didn't do it, and Rose calms her down, then goes inside to pay for gas and ask for directions. So, about the parent swap. Director Christoph Gans talked about that while he was making this script, he really just felt that the story of a parent working so hard to get back their child really felt like a maternal character, hence the change in the script. I don't really care about the change. I mean, to me, the gender of the parent is really irrelevant. The point is much more about this parent who's fighting for their kid. So it being the mom instead of the dad, I'm very neutral. But there is one scene that they added in the movie that makes me so mad and told me immediately that this film was made by a man. Sybil Bennett, a main character and cop in both the game and the movie, has a way earlier introduction in the film. See, when Rose goes to pay for the gas, she crosses Sybil as Sybil is making her way to the car with Sharon in it. So Rose walks away from her kid in the car while a stranger is walking toward it. I don't care that Sybil is a cop and some people trust cops. No parent worth their while would ever just let a stranger approach their child like that. That is wild to me. So while Christoph is arguing that the script has a more maternal tone, he really needed to change that bit to sell it. Yes, Rose does end up seeing Sybil talking to her kid and quickly ends her phone call to husband Christopher to go and break that situation up, but that still doesn't fix the fact that she walked off the first time. So Rose gets back into the car and drives on, ignoring the warnings from the locals to stay away from the town. That is, until Sybil pulls up behind her, lights going, and Rose decides, hey, let me just drive off from this cop. That won't endanger my child or anything. So she does. And as she speeds, she even breaks through a fence. Nice. Then the radio goes crazy, she sees a little girl in the road, and she slams her head as they crash. The game's intro is a bit different than the film. In the first game, the backstory says Harry is grieving his recently deceased wife Jody when their adoptive daughter Cheryl asks him to take them on vacation to Silent Hill. The daughter is still the driving force, but in a slightly less dramatic way. The actual game opens with a montage showing characters throughout the game before Harry and Cheryl are in the car. He also sees Sybil pass him by, but she isn't trying to arrest him. Harry then sees the little girl on the road, swerves to avoid her, and the car crashes. This part is very much the same as the film. So what happens next? Well, when the parent wakes up, they see that their kid is gone. They also see that they're right outside of the titular town, Silent Hill. Time to enter this spooky fog-covered town. What could possibly go wrong? A lot. A lot could go wrong. And does. Right from the get-go, the movie version of this town looks great. The atmosphere is perfect, the limited visibility is true to the game, that eerie feeling of a town being suddenly abandoned in there. Even the signs are from the game. This really feels like a real-world Silent Hill, and I want to give so much credit for the attention to detail. As Rose goes into town looking for Sharon, following the mysterious little girl just like her game counterpart, a siren blares, plunging us into our first look at the other world. The director copies a lot of the same shots and angles from the game. The rusted fence, the industrial field, the grotesque bodies and bits of viscera. The film crew nailed it. I mean, look at this sequence. It's perfect. Determined to find their kid, both Rose and Harry go into this dark, creepy alley with only a lighter to light their way. They follow what looks to be their little girl, but she runs off. Here's where they encounter their first monster, the Grey Child. The parent tries to flee, with Harry getting caught and overwhelmed before passing out, while Rose manages to escape into an abandoned bowling alley, hitting her head again, and blacks out while the Grey Children burn up due to the coming daylight. Shortest night ever, by the way? That was like 5 minutes? Whatever. Quick shout out to the actor playing the Grey Child. When casting this film, Christoph made sure to use dancers who could contort their bodies in really uncomfortable looking ways, and it gives them such a great feeling of movement. Post-blackout, both Harry and Rose wake up, although Harry has been moved to a small cafe. Sybil is here, and she wants to know what's going on. Harry explains that he has no idea, he's just looking for...
Have you seen a little girl?
Sybil hasn't seen her. She tells him how she's a cop from the next town over and that all the phones are down and the radios don't work. Harry goes to leave, but Sybil stops him. She gives him a gun, then pieces out to go find help. Once she leaves, Harry searches the cafe and finds a map, flashlight, and knife, plus a health drink. As he goes to leave, a nearby radio starts to emit static, the telltale sign of an enemy nearby. Sure enough, Big Bird crashes through the window and starts attacking. Harry manages to take it down before exiting the cafe. He thinks it'd be a good idea to revisit that alley from earlier. You know, that place he just got mauled. But he goes and he finds a note left by his daughter Cheryl that reads, "To school," and heads out. Rose, on the other hand, wakes up where she was. She emerges from the bowling alley, which, by the way, is this a reference to Silent Hill 2? Because I don't remember there being a bowling alley in the first game, but there very much is in the second. Anyway, she goes outside and ends up at the end of the road. Literally, the road just ends. This perfectly matches the game world, with those streets also being mysteriously cut off. This is also where she meets Dahlia Gillespie. Now, Game Dahlia and Movie Dahlia could not be more opposite. I won't get too into Game Dahlia yet, since Harry hasn't encountered her at this point, but Movie Dahlia is a broken woman. She talks about how a group of people tricked her and took her child, Alessa. Rose shows Dahlia her locket, which has a picture of Sharon inside, and Dahlia starts talking about how that's her daughter, which weirds Rose out and makes her run away. We quickly jump back to husband Christopher, who's busy looking for Rose. He asks some locals about how to get to Silent Hill and is told that the road was closed off, same as Rose had been told. He then asks where the turnoff is, showing he has no intention of giving up. Back with Rose, she returns to the cart and finds Sharon's drawings scattered about, including one of a school. She takes out her cell phone that for some reason she hadn't taken the first time, leaves her hubby a voicemail, then is caught and promptly arrested by Sybil, who thinks that Rose may have kidnapped Sharon. Rose points out that Sybil is bleeding, and the cop says she hit her head when she crashed her bike. Not getting any radio signal, Sybil takes Rose's arm and starts to walk her to the nearest police station in another town, miles away. Cool. Yep, that is totally a great plan. So while the plot point of the protagonist's parent encountering Sybil stays in the same plot in the story, the situations are entirely different. Whereas in the game, Sybil is friendly and helpful right from the start, wanting to help Harry, here, Sybil is very slightly antagonistic, not trusting Rose, and actually hindering her search for her daughter. Though even in this more confrontational context, movie Sybil is still determined to help find the little girl. Overall, I don't hate the change in the character, because Sybil is still acting out of concern. Also, as they walk, Sybil tells Rose how she found a boy here before, which is why she's suspicious and concerned. So, she's being a jerk, but, kind of with a reason, and, not inexcusably a jerk. That's when they come across another dead-end road. Rose pulls in "I told you so," which does not go over very well. They then see a figure in the distance, and Sybil's radio starts acting up. Their newfound friendo comes closer to play, but it seems to have a slight little baby cough and oopsies! Oh no, it's acid! Also, no idea how the acid didn't get on Sybil's face here, because it absolutely should have. Anyhoozle, while Sybil is distracted with these guys, Rose takes this opportunity to run off to the school. And since she doesn't have a map, plus even if she did, Girly is still cuffed, she uses the bus maps to figure out where it is. See, I love this. Rose is smart, and so is the script. She isn't just blindly stumbling around. She is using what resources she can to find her kid. She is focused and determined, yes, but she's also not being frantic and unrealistic about it, which I feel I see so many times in different movies and different pieces of media. She found a clue that pointed her to the school, so she has to find the school. She doesn't have a map, so she finds what she can use as a map. There's no Deus Ex Machina moment where a map just falls into her path or she just magically knows where to go. She's just using her brain, and it feels authentic, and I love it so much. So now both Rose and Harry are at the schoolhouse. Their time here is spent very differently, with Rose mainly running for her life, and Harry spending most of his time fighting off gray children, or mumblers if you're playing the censored version, solving piano puzzles, and crawling through clock towers. This difference makes sense. The main difficulty with adapting one form of media into another is that storytelling is handled differently in each form. A video game is interactive, meaning the player is going to spend most of their time playing the game, whether that's, an action game where they're shooting stuff, or they're going to be solving puzzles, or whatever it is that they're doing. A movie audience isn't really going to want to watch that so much. They need more actual story content. Personally, as a Let's Player and as someone who does watch people play games, I can sit through that stuff, but it doesn't make a good film. So cutting out all of these puzzles and constant fights, it makes sense. Some points that do remain the same in both versions is that both Harry and Rose see Alessa here. They also find her school desk, which is covered in writings accusing her of being a witch. This is also where the movie jumps back to Christopher, who's now actually in town. He's here, apparently. He's joined by disinterested cop Thomas Gucci, a character briefly mentioned in an in-game memo, and he is a man whose family comes from Silent Hill. He drops the lore that most of the people here died in the fire and how most people were good here. Most of them. Suspicious. Also, this version of the town, while still abandoned, looks way different from what we've been seeing with Rose. Instead of fog and monsters, it's bright and sunny. This scene is intercut with shots of Rose exploring the school, running from people, crossing a not at all thematic hopscotch game, seeing the little girl from before, and chasing her into a bathroom. She tries to coax the little girl to come out from the bathroom stall, then finds a lovely little strung-up corpse with the words, dare you, double dare you," written on the wall and an arrow pointing to its mouth. She reaches inside and finds the key. Couldn't be me. Key in hand, she goes to leave, but sees those people from before and uses a key ring she picked up earlier to lock the door. Then it's siren morphing time. The boiler people run away, and out pops our corpse friend, played by the director himself. Not feeling his weird 10 vibe, Rose nopes out of that bathroom and finds the boiler suit people being eaten alive by some gross buggos. This is also when she sees the little girl from before and crosses paths with the big man Pyramid Head. Red Pyramid. His name is Red Pyramid, also played by the director. This is also when Christopher and Rose seemingly cross paths in the scene, with him catching a whiff of her perfume when she runs past. Also, the cello music playing in this scene is so nice, and I love it. I also just need to point out this shot. She really looks like she's screaming into a microphone, and it makes me giggle every time. Anyway, back to being serious. Sybil comes back and pulls Rose into a room. They squash some tiny bug people, and Red Pyramid tries to slice them through the door. When daylight saves their butts, again, Rose shows Sybil the key she got from the dead janitor's mouth, and sees it's from a hotel. So that's where they head off to next. But before the movie follows them, we once again pop back real quick to see what Chris is up to. Thomas Gucci tells Christopher to behave himself, but he is determined, so he calls up the archive department to get more info, but the lady on the phone says she can't help. Angry, he keeps driving. I'm sure he'll definitely follow Thomas's advice and stay out of trouble. Now to address the pyramid in the room. Yes, as anyone who knows pretty much anything about Silent Hill knows, Pyramid Head is very specifically from Silent Hill 2, and only Silent Hill 2. His character is incredibly specific to that game, so putting him in any other movie adaptation or different game is just super lore inaccurate. That being said, getting a studio to greenlight a big, expensive project that is based on a video game, something that wasn't super being done back in the day, but if it was kind of like mocked, that's a challenge. A producer who isn't a gamer would probably look at the series and go, oh, put that big recognizable guy in it. You know, the one that, everyone knows, so there's immediate recognition. And yeah, I sort of understand that, because if anyone was going to be the poster person for this franchise, it would probably be Pyramid Head. So while including him makes literally no sense in terms of lore, I do think it makes some sense from, the marketing producer aspect. I don't agree with it, but, I understand why he's there in those terms. It'll also be very interesting now that they are making a video game adaptation of that second game. of how they're gonna bring back Pyramid Head, considering how overused he has now become, but I guess we'll see when we see. For the hotel section, the game, doesn't really have one. Once Harry defeats the boss in the school's basement, he hears a church bell and wonders who's ringing it, so that's where he goes next. The film also goes to the church, but inserts this hotel first, so let's go through it. At the hotel, Sybil and Rose hear a woman yelling and run to find a woman named Anna yelling at Dahlia, who's all mysterious again as she says cryptic things while she wanders off. Sybil and Rose talk with Anna and are surprised to find out there are more people in town. Anna hasn't seen Sharon, but she does see Rose taking her knife. Rose also asks about the symbols she's been seeing everywhere, and Anna explains that it's the symbol of their faith. Their cult. These people are in a cult. Sybil finds a key like the one Rose has, so Rose checks hers. Sybil finds another one of Sharon's drawings in the matching key slot, room 111. We jump back again to Chris, who's being a very good boy and not doing anything. Okay, he's breaking into the archives. He breaks in, finds the charred boxes from Silent Hill, and goes a-diggin', and finds a photo of Sharon? No, it's the little girl, and she looks just like Sharon. Back at the hotel, Rose and Sybil can't find room 111, but there is a big painting of a woman being burned at the stake. Totally normal hotel decor. Anna, who's still here, says it's of the first burning, and it stopped the apocalypse. Rose, not really a connoisseur of art, and also because she's reminded of one of Sharon's drawings, decides to slice it up, and ta-da! Room 111. So the three go inside and find a room with a hole in the wall, and the one thing that makes me so mad in this movie. As they jump into the other room, Rose drops the knife. She freaking drops it. How? How are you in this situation where your life is in danger and you have loose enough fingies that you drop the one weapon that you've had? Moving on. In this new room, Rose sees the little girl and follows her, doing some fun stunt work in the process. Rose comments on how she and her Sharon could be twins right before the girl says,
"Look at me. I'm burning."
And, yeah, she's certainly burning. And then she disappears. Cool. Sybil arrives and is like, how the frick did you get there? I take my eyes off you for 2 seconds! Birds fly out of the giant hole in the ground, and Anna starts freaking out that the darkness is coming!
Let's go.
The three run to the church, the siren starts blaring, other locals start booking it past them, and Rose has one of those dumb cliche moments where she looks at the church and is like, oh my god, it's like the drawing from before, instead of just moving. Anna and Sybil don't ditch her, which, like, they should have, and wait until Rose snaps out of it. Dahlia's there too, and warns Sybil not to go to the church. Anna, ready for round 2, starts chucking rocks at the older woman. Rose interrogates Dahlia, who's all cryptic and whatnot, and again, Anna and Sybil just wait on the steps until it's too late. Anna, wanting to practice her pitching skills, waits too long to go inside and gets caught by the Red Pyramid, who in turn decides that she is just simply way too overdressed for this occasion. Okay, so I'm not going to show this because, like, YouTube guidelines and all of that, but Anna sort of ends up skinless. But, like, all in one move, which is kind of impressive. And gross. It's super, super gross. As a last act of taunting, Red Pyramid throws Anna's skin at the church doors, covering Sybil and Rose in blood right before the doors close. Lovely. Back in the game, Harry has arrived at the church where he finally meets Dahlia. As stated previously, Movie Dahlia and Game Dahlia are basically opposites. Game Dahlia is still part of the cult called the Order, since I don't think I've said that, and she starts telling Harry that his arrival has been foretold, that she knows he's looking for the girl, and that she knows everything. Love to see that Dahlia is cryptic in both versions. So she gives him an item called Flowros and tells him to go to the hospital before she leaves. Ooh, mysterious. With this weird new item in hand, he does as he's told and heads over to the hospital. I also want to say I love how film version matched the game version of Dahlia in terms of costuming, but made the adjustments to match the character's new context. Like, they still both have, like, the long robes and hair and, like, the lacy thing. I think both of them have that. But, like, the overall vibe really reads perfectly for both versions. So, good job, team. Meanwhile, back in the movie, Rose and Sybil are now just awkwardly standing at the door, surrounded by cult members, covered in their friend's blood. Not the best first impression. The crowd starts getting mad, calling them witches and whatnot, until Sybil asserts her dominance. Hot. Then this character steps forward, and this is Christabella. She serves as the movie equivalent of Game Dahlia, and I cannot put into words how much I hate this woman. And wow, Alice Krige does a great job playing her. Actually, let me take a moment to say that everyone's performances in this movie are really good. Everyone's acting feels genuine and justified and well-balanced. No one feels like they're doing too much or not taking it seriously. And it's just a really good job all around. So, yay. So Christabella leads the cult in prayer in front of another large picture of a woman being burned at the stake. A repeating image I'm sure won't be relevant later on. We then cut to a bunch of children praying at an orphanage with a nun. It's Chris! He's still on the case and is asking about Alessa, but the nun doesn't answer his questions, though she definitely knows something. Then Thomas Gucci appears and intervenes. He tells Chris that he knows Alessa, that he saw her burned up body, and shows his scarred hands. Ooh, what happened there? Well, we don't get to know yet, since we go back to Rose, and she is talking to Christabella, who barfs on about religion. Rose convinces her to lead her to the demon, since apparently this demon would know where Sharon is. Christabella gets some of her team to suit up in those boiler suits we saw earlier, and leads Rose and Sybil to the hospital. Before they leave, Sybil says the line,
"Mother is God in the eyes of a child."
And Christabella swipes Rose's locket. I'm sure that won't come up later. And now we have finally reached the hospital, another staple Silent Hill location. In the game, though, way more happens here than in the film, including meeting some major characters that barely make it into the film, if at all. When Harry goes to the hospital, he meets Dr. Michael Kaufman. Kaufman is confused by what's happening, wonders why everyone's gone, and why it's suddenly snowing. But all of this is old news to Harry. All he wants to know is if he's
Seen a little girl anywhere?
But Kaufman hasn't. He leaves and Harry continues through the hospital, encountering another iconic monster, the nurses. Speaking of nurses, Harry also meets fan favorite Lisa Garland. I love you, Lisa! Lisa is a nurse at the hospital who's been hiding from the monsters and is scared. They chat and she mentions how there are strict rules not to go to the basement. Then the sirens sound and Harry gets a headache and maybe passes out? He's now in a different room, and instead of Lisa, there's now Dahlia, who babbles more about how she's foreseen all of this, and then tells him to go to the other church. She also tells him about the Mark of Samael that he's been seeing all around town, and how she wants him to make sure it's not completed, but doesn't really give him instructions on how to do that, so it's not really helpful. She then goes off, and Harry finds a key to the antique store, so that's where he goes. When he gets there, he pushes an old cabinet out of the way to reveal a door just as Sybil runs in. She tells him how she couldn't leave town and did see a little girl, but wasn't sure if it was Cheryl. Harry gets angry, and Sybil says the girl she saw was heading to the lake. They then chat about Dahlia, and Sybil says she
must be on drugs.
This drug subplot doesn't make it into the movie, which makes for a cleaner script since they added the husband investigation subplot, but I did like how the drug plotline made Silent Hill feel seedier, like more uncomfortable and twisted. Harry then mentions having blackouts, which Sybil dismisses, not validating his feelings at all, and Harry goes through the door. He then finds an altar that lights up when he goes near it, and at the same time, he apparently disappears. Sybil can't find him, and he ends up back at the hospital with Lisa. Strange. Lisa says that Dahlia went crazy when her kid died in a fire, then the history of the town, the cult, a string of accidental deaths, a possible curse, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Then Harry blacks out again and decides to head to the lake, but doesn't know how to get there with all of the blocked roads. He finds Lisa, again, who tells him how to get to the lake. Harry invites her to come with him, but she feels as though she's not supposed to leave. Also strange. Without any other leads, Harry goes to the lake's resort area by traveling through some sewers. Fun. None of this happens in the movie. In the film, Christabella tells Rose to memorize the map so she'll know where to go. Rose gets to work, but Sybil tries to talk to her, which Rose does not appreciate. Fair enough. If someone was trying to talk to me while I was, trying to cram for a super important test that if I didn't ace, my kid could die, I would also get angry. The cult people open an elevator that will lead Rose and Sybil down to the basement, and one of them gives Rose a flashlight but warns her that it'll lure the monsters, yet she won't be able to see without it. Christabella then goes to return Rose's locket, but it's fallen open and she catches sight of Sharon's picture inside. She freaks, screaming that Sharon has the likeness of Alessa and that Sybil and Rose are witches. The cult attacks. Sybil holds them off while she sends Rose down to find Sharon, but is beaten in the process.
Find her.
I love Sybil so much, and I really wish she had just gone into the elevator with Rose. But I guess separating them does stick closer to the game plot. I'm just still really upset by it. So Rose goes down into the basement, actually remembering which turns to take. Good memory. I definitely would have failed. And runs into another Silent Hill icon, the nurses. I want to take another moment of appreciation that they cast a bunch of dancers for this, and their movement here is just divine. I am so obsessed with how they did this scene. Rose, having been warned that the creatures are attracted to light, turns her flashlight off and carefully moves through them. But oh no, it doesn't work, and it quickly becomes a bloodbath. She makes it through and turns the light on to distract them as she sprints down the hall and through a door into blinding bright light. Movie Alessa decides to have Rose experience a flashback, a technique the game uses as well. Here she tells Rose all about how Alessa was ostracized for being born out of wedlock, how Christabella convinced Dahlia to have Alessa purified after she was raped by the school janitor? You remember him, right? And how purification was code for setting her on fire. Dahlia, to her credit, ran and got the cops when she realized what Christabella had planned, but it was too late. The ritual burning was underway. But what's this? Charred barbecue Alessa's weird cult crucifix thing broke and started a massive fire? A fire so bad that it not only ruined the party, but also somehow ignited a coal seam below town? See, one of the changes that they made for this movie is that they actually based it on a real-world location in Centralia, Pennsylvania, here in the United States. That town really does have a coal seam underground that caught fire decades ago and forced a mass evacuation, but those coal fires are still burning to this day. A lot of people do seem to mix this up, though, and think that the Silent Hill game is based on Centralia, but that is not accurate. This is something that was only added for the movie. Anyway, police officer Thomas Gucci arrives and rescues Alessa, burning his hands in the process. That answers that question. Alessa ends up in the hospital, being watched over by an unnamed, though super implied Lisa Garland, and is ready to take revenge. A being appears to her that looks just like her and offers her a deal to get revenge. So Alessa accepts the deal and splits her soul into two, one being the bitter, dark parts of her, and the other being her goodness, aka Sharon. Post-flashback, Rose finds herself in Alessa's hospital room, and hey, Lisa's still here. I love this shot where Lisa won't show her face to the camera since it ties into a great reveal shot at the end of the scene. Anyway, Devil Alessa appears and makes a deal with Rose that if she helps her take down the cult, Alessa will help reunite Rose with Sharon. Rose agrees and absorbs Alessa into her body. Fun! And now this lovely shot. It's great. Poor Lisa, though. It's also revealed here that Dahlia has been hiding Sharon, but alas, cultists figured that out and capture the girl. We also get another scene with Christopher and Thomas where he talks about Sybil and how she found that one boy alive in her backstory, but Chris doesn't care and is still gonna fight to find his family. Back in the game, there is so much that happens. Possibly. See, there's a whole side quest to determine Kaufman's fate, but since we don't even see him in the film, I'm kinda gonna just skip over that. Harry meets back up with Sybil at the lake and they compare notes. Harry says it seems as though the whole town is being swallowed up by someone's nightmarish delusions, and how he thinks he finally understands the crazy things Dahlia's been saying. And oh hey, speak of the devil! Dahlia's here and warns them that if he doesn't act, that his daughter is going to be sacrificed. Harry and Sybil decide to split up and each tackle a place mentioned by Dahlia, Harry going to the lighthouse, while Sybil goes to the amusement park. Dahlia also mentions that Harry has to use the flower rose to stop the demon, but only after Sybil has left. Sure hope that doesn't cause any problems! At the lighthouse, Harry sees Alessa and the Mark of Samael, but it's too late, so he then goes to the amusement park. Depending on player choices, Harry encounters a possessed Sybil and either has to kill her, or if you did some side quests, you can save her. I was heartbroken that I hadn't done what I needed to, since in my playthrough I was going in pretty blind, and I did have to kill Sybil, and I was so upset. I'm still upset by it. I need to replay it. Rip girl. Either way, Alessa appears again, and the flower rose Harry's been carrying around traps her. Dahlia pops by, reveals that she's a villain. Duh. And that Alessa is her daughter. Mother of the Year right here. Harry wakes back up in the hospital. This game really likes the hospital. Lisa's here! Hi, Lisa! Unfortunately, she's not doing too well. She tells Harry that she went to the basement and feels as though she's been there before. Harry comforts her before going to investigate more. He solves some puzzles and runs into Lisa again. And she finally realizes that she has been dead the whole time and transforms in the most gut-wrenching scene.
Lisa.
After Harry runs away like a jerk, he finds Lisa's diary and reads that she tended to Alessa, as seen in the film. It also shows that Lisa was addicted to a drug supplied by Kaufman. Harry then gets a flashback that reveals a chat between Dahlia, Kaufman, and some cult members about their plan to use Alessa to birth their god through torture and dark magic. Harry leaves and gets another vision of Alessa's past, showing more of Dahlia's abuse. Harry then finds Dahlia in the present, and possibly Sybil if she's still alive. He also finds someone who's all wrapped up in bandages, chilling in a wheelchair. Huh, I wonder who that could be. Dahlia does a villain monologue, then the souls of Cheryl and Alessa recombined. It's explained again that Dahlia sacrificed her daughter by setting her on fire 7 years ago to birth their cult god, and that their god is now in Alessa's womb. Alessa, who, reminding you, is a child. Like a whole child. Game Dahlia sucks. Anyway, as in the movie, Alessa was not into that plan and split her soul into two, with the good part becoming Cheryl, whom Harry and his wife Jody had found on the road outside of Silent Hill and had adopted. All this time later, Alessa called out to Cheryl subconsciously to return to Silent Hill so she could regain her power and get revenge on those mofos by destroying the town and herself to prevent this messed up god birth. Fair. With the two halves of the soul recombined and Dahlia's sneaky plan put into action because we didn't successfully thwart it, the god thing is born. What happens here depends on what all the player has done. Kaufman can appear and throw a vial at the god thing that changes the final boss to the incubus. He could not appear and Harry has to fight the incubator, but Either way, this demon god first kills Dahlia before turning onto Harry, which is something I applaud no matter what. After the fight, there are several different endings, with the good ending generally considered canon. This has the goodness of Alessa once again reborn, this time as Heather Mason. The good plus ending may also be canon, which has Sybil surviving. Both good endings also have Lisa coming back to take down Kaufman as revenge. Hell yeah, girl! So that's the game, but what happens in the movie's third act? After Rose and Alessa merge, we jump back to the church where poor Sybil gets roasted like a pig. Alive. Huge props to the effects team because that scene looks very realistic. Right when it's about to be little Sharon's turn, Mama Rose enters the scene. She drags Christabella, talking about how the cult is evil and how they're all already damned. Also, Rose gets a great little monologue here.
Burn me? That's your answer. Burn anything you're afraid of. Burn anything you can't control.
Oh no, our hero! But haha, this was actually Dark Alessa's plan all along. Since blood has never been spilled in the church, the cult preferring to burn everything, the ground hadn't been tainted. With Rose's blood now desecrating the place, Alessa is free to enter, and boy does she enter. This is such a phenomenal shot. The music, the effects, the barbed wire, this is peak cinema for me. And yeah, Christabella and her cult are f***ed. After some truly vile and delicious revenge, not shown here because, wow, this would not survive YouTube's rules. I mean, seriously, Christabella gets a whole bunch of barbed wire. All up in her hoo-ha. It is disgusting. Rose frees Sharon and the two huddle at a corner. Devil Alessa also decides to look real close at Sharon, who then passes out, which could hint at something. Hint. Hint, hint. Yeah, they merge. Soon daylight comes and Rose goes to leave with Sharon and passes Dahlia. Dahlia wonders why she wasn't killed, and Rose repeats what Sybil had said earlier.
Mother is God in the eyes of a child.
Then leaves. She and Sharon drive back to their house, Rose calling Christopher, which he tries to hear, but he can't hear anything. The two arrive, happy to be home, while in the real world, Christopher wakes up to find the door open, sensing that his family is nearby. And with that, the movie ends. Overall, I think that the first act felt pretty true to the game, the second act veered way off lore-wise, and the third started to work its way back. That being said, I still think that the movie captured the spirit of the game. The atmosphere, the character design, most of the original plot points were pretty close, and those were pretty good. I think that this film struck a good balance between being based on the game and still just being a good movie. Like, swapping out Kaufman's subplot and replacing it with Christopher's worked pretty well, because Chris's investigation allowed us to learn a lot more about Alessa and the town without just, like, another massive exposition dump. Also, if we had kept the entire drug subplot happening, that just would have been so much more and would have overcomplicated a film script, which overall has to be a lot tighter. Editing Gray popping in here because while my degree is in writing and I do write professionally, essays are not something I'm used to writing, and while reviewing this section, I felt I wasn't clear enough in my argument for this first film. I believe this first movie adaptation works because it sticks to the game's main theme about a parent fighting for their child. The movie does shift the lore to stick to a maternal love, changing Dahlia to a tragic figure, changing the protagonist from Harry to Rose, changing Alessa's abuser from her mother to her aunt. That's actually a part I didn't touch on, but Christabella is Alessa's aunt in the movie, meaning Alessa is still brutalized by a relative and a woman, just not her mom, which admittedly weakens the game's view of exploring all forms of parent-child relationships. But it does still show how religious obsession can destroy what most would consider a natural bond. Game Dahlia is so focused on her beliefs, on bringing her god into this world, that she tortured her own child to do so. Dahlia was blinded by her faith to the point of destroying an innocent, as Rose says to Christabella in the movie. The game and movie both show the dangers of obsession and how one's harmful convictions and fanaticism can cause irreparable harm. The game shows this a bit more with the drug subplot and how that obsession also damaged the town and destroyed lives, but the point is still the same. So while Gans did make changes to focus on maternal love, he still stuck to the game's theme of the destructive power of obsession and that of a parent traveling to hell and back for the sake of their child. Because of this, I think the first Silent Hill movie works as an adaptation. There are some changes I disagree with, like changing people's names, because that just felt really unnecessary. But at the end of the day, I do think it is an effective adaptation, and I do think he showed respect for the original source material. I cannot say the same for the sequel. Silent Hill Revelation is a movie that was made and universally panned by critics. Deservedly so. Now, I usually try to be nice, especially since I am a writer and an actor who works in the film industry, so I know very well how hard it is to make a movie. But this movie... So Silent Hill Revelation is based on the video game Silent Hill 3. Just like in the video game franchise, 3 is actually the direct sequel to 1, with Silent Hill 2 being a completely unconnected story, which actually is the story that is going to be covered in the new Silent Hill movie coming out soon, with the return of Christoph Gans from the first film, and I'm very excited! But we're not talking about that one yet. So, Christoph Gans was actually offered the role of directing this sequel, Silent Hill Revelation, but he ended up turning it down, because as he phrased it, his vision for this sequel just did not line up with that of the producers of this sequel. And so I think he kind of dodged a bullet. But with him out of the picture, the job ended up landing on M.J. Bassett. Bassett wanted to make a film that respected the lore of the first movie while also being based on the third game, while also giving the producers what they wanted. And boy howdy, is that a really impossible task. So what some people don't always understand is that some producers hold a lot of power, and especially more so in situations when you are trying to make a sequel of a surprise success. Producers are basically in charge of the purse strings, among so many other tasks that they do. But if they want something in a movie and you say no, you are risking the entire funding for your project. Now, this isn't always the case, but it very much can be the case. They can make massive changes to a script, dictate what is and is not included, and all sorts of things that can completely go against the vision of the writer and or director. Now, you could say, okay, well, F you, I'll do it my own way. Which, okay, but then you're gonna be the one who has to foot that, like, $20+ million bill. Or you could try to say, oh, well, if this is what you want, then, like, I'm out. I'm not compromising my vision. Which is also an option. Unfortunately, you are replaceable, and so they'll probably do that. Or depending on how the project is set up, you could then have the entire project shut down, but that also means that every single person who's working on it is now out of a job, and you may have landed yourself a lawsuit. So working with producers can be a delicate situation. Now, obviously, this is very dependent on how the contract is laid out, who all is involved. There are some producers who do not have anywhere that amount of power. There are others who, like, yes, they absolutely control the situation, and every single thing in between. So it's very much how each specific individual project is structured. So sometimes it can be very, very hard. Other times it's an absolute breeze. So take from that what you will. All of that being said, Bassett tried. She's even admitted in an interview since then that she knew, like, while the project was happening, that it just was not going to turn out and it was not going to be good. And I respect that. I really, really do. So while I am absolutely going to destroy this film, I want to be very clear in saying I do not believe that she single-handedly led this film to being trash. She is partially responsible, don't get me wrong, but she's not alone. And without knowing which specific decisions she made throughout the process, I cannot single her out. So I am so sorry, Bassett. You were dealt a really, really bad hand. But without further ado, let's jump into the sequel. This person might look familiar because, spoiler alert, this is Cheryl/Sharon from the first game. But now she's a teenager named Heather, and Heather is having a bad time. Also, the game keeps Heather's identity a secret at first, so it can do a big reveal later on, which is great. But for this, I'm going full spoilers from the get-go. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Survival Horror Network here on YouTube. I'm using their video game footage for these games because their footage is so much better than my, like, very glitchy, laggy, not good quality footage from when I played these games back on Twitch. So thank you so much for doing your videos. Please keep up the good work, and anyone watching, please go check out their channel. They have some very beautiful, like, 4K playthroughs of so many horror games, and it's awesome. So, thank you! Starting in Silent Hill 3, Game Heather finds herself in this amusement park. She finds a giant bloodied Robbie the Rabbit, wanders around, before wandering onto some roller coaster tracks and gets wrecked. She then snaps awake in a diner, very reminiscent of her dad waking up in the cafe in the first game. This diner is in a mall, and Heather exits to go call her dad on a payphone. But who's this? This is Douglas, a detective who was hired to find us. Heather has no interest in talking to him, so she gives him some sass and ditches him by going into the restroom. She then hops out the window and re-enters the mall, only to find it now abandoned and full of monsters. She has her first fight, does some puzzles, and then meets Claudia, this game's version of Game Dahlia or movie Christabella. Claudia sucks. Like Dahlia before her, she's just a member of the cult who really wants blood for her god, and Heather just could not care.
So what?
See, Game Heather? She's got bite, and I love it so much. She has been moved around time and again, restarting in a new town each time, and at this point just cannot care. I love that for her. While the attitudinal teen is a trope that I think is overused and I don't really care for, I do think that for her it makes sense. Also, she was just attacked, is actively being stalked, and is aware that there are things that she has not been told. Girl's allowed to be peeved. Also, a quick note about Claudia's design that I love. She has no eyebrows. This was intentional since the designers saw a photo of a model without them, and they thought it was interesting since they couldn't really read her emotions. Later on, when we meet movie Claudia, I am so glad to say that they kept that aspect, and I love this detail so much. When Claudia dips, Heather enters the longest elevator I've ever seen in a mall. Here's also where she gets a radio, deals with the boss enemy, then finally heads to the exit of the mall where she runs into Douglas again. She accuses him of being part of the cult and working with Claudia, and he defends himself by saying he was just hired to find her, and is also confused by the presence of monsters. Heather leaves, taking the subway to head to her apartment. Down in the subway, she also runs into an enemy that is so mean, because it just pushes you into the tracks. Rude! During this trip back to her apartment, she also goes through a building where she meets another major character, Vincent. Now, game Vincent and movie Vincent are different, but not the same way that Dahlia was different. Vincent is something. Like, he's casual and friendly, but it just feels like the chummier he is, the more on guard you are. You just instinctively do not trust this man. The writing and the acting works really well to convey this. He's also the one who gives Heather probably the most to think about. Like when he says Claudia is Heather's mother, and when he delivers one of the most famous lines from the franchise, but we'll save that for later when we actually get to it in-game. Anyway, Heather does not trust him, and she leaves, finally getting to her and her dad's apartment. The movie starts basically the same, with movie Heather also in the creepy amusement park. The visuals mostly match the game, but I will say these bondage people don't look quite right, a detail I will quibble with throughout this movie. You see, my main issue with the monsters, and I guess these are victims throughout this film, is that they all look too clean. Silent Hill is dirty. It just is. Its design is industrial, meaning there's a lot of grime and blood and goo, and it's gross. And all of the creatures in this movie are clean. I'm also confused by these people here. I understand that it's a dream sequence, but this is a problem I have throughout the film. There are too many, regular people in Silent Hill. Who are they? Who are these people? Silent Hill is supposed to be a personalized nightmare, so why do we have these randos? Another big issue I have with this intro is this line.
Do not go to Silent Hill.
This is a bad line. To me, this is just an objectively bad line, and it is delivered so poorly. And I do not fault the actor for this. Every once in a while, you get a script that has a line in it that just cannot be delivered well. It just either reads as, this is not how people talk, or it's just too clunky, but for whatever reason, it is just not gonna sound good, and to me, this is one of those lines. Here, instead of being taken out by a roller coaster, Heather is set on fire and then is woken up by her dad, Christopher. But wait, oh no, he's killed! And oh, nope, that was also just a dream. Personal pet peeve, but double dream fakeouts really bother me. I just view them as really cheap. Maybe some movies have done it well, but I just think it's overused and doesn't really add anything, but I do think that is just me. With Heather actually awake now, she goes down to have some breakfast. Christopher does a nice job setting some backstory by saying what their new names are, giving us some insight into what's happened since the first movie, and this matches the game's lore pretty closely. His new name is Harry, finally, and Sharon is now Heather. He also gives her an early birthday present, which is her white vest from the game. I do want to give credit where credit is due. I love Heather's wardrobe in this movie. I think that the wardrobe department did a pretty good job on everyone in this movie, almost everyone in this movie, but Heather's outfit in particular I really love, because while it is based on the game, they translated it in a way where it doesn't look costumey. What I have on, obviously I don't have a good wig, but what I have, you could tell this doesn't look real. This doesn't look like an outfit a person would actually go wear. But in the movie, what they did with Heather, that looks like a real outfit. I believe it, but it also echoes the source material. So huge props to wardrobe for that. So Heather leaves for her first day of school, and Harry, has a moment talking to Rose in a mirror.
My love, I don't have a lot of time. I'm trapped here. There's nothing you can do for me. Protect her. She's the one that matters now.
Why can't you come back?
Oh, again, so bad. And again, I am not blaming the actors. These guys were fine in the first movie and their other projects, but this dialogue is bad. It feels so forced. Who talks like this? It's stilted and odd. At school, Heather introduces herself to her new class and shows some of the same sass as her video game counterpart. This is also where we encountered our first major change. One of her classmates is Vincent. Vincent is a student here for some reason. What up, Jon Snow? Anyway, Heather's hit with some hallucinations, and Vincent seeks her out, desperate to cozy up to the new girl. It's weird, both for plot reasons, but also this romantic undertone is just not it. Heather notices she's being followed by a man, gets creeped out because, yeah, random middle-aged man following around a high schooler? That's creepy. She quickly calls her dad, and Harry says he'll come get her, but is stopped. Heather heads to the mall. While here, her hallucinations get even worse, and I'm sorry, but this looks so cheap. I get that in the game, Heather has these continuous headaches, and so I guess they're expressing that and, amping it up by also adding these hallucinations, but I think it would have worked better if we just, hadn't, just because of, how not good this looks. At least to me. At the mall, Douglas follows Heather into a back room and starts spitting out a bunch of lore, saying he was hired by the Order and warns her that the cult is after her. He then gets his fingies sliced off by this friend. Okay, for monster design, I don't hate it. But again, this feels too clean. Like, it feels fake because of how clean it is. No blood where the metal bits are, or its eye hole things. Honestly, to me, it feels like a prop piece that is waiting for its final round of paint and just hasn't had it yet, if that makes sense. So, not a bad design by any means, but it just, feels unfinished. Heather and Douglas flee into the elevator, and again, how deep is this mall? Douglas gets axed. Rip. Heather gets scared by a janitor and exits outside to find it's now nighttime and also a crime scene. The cops spot her and move her past the police tape since no one is supposed to be inside, ignoring the fact that we literally just saw a janitor inside, while Douglas's body is wheeled past. They also found Heather's bloody jacket. That was quick. And in Douglas's pockets finds a really unrealistic note with her name on it and a photo of her. A photo of her that has her in her same outfit that she is currently wearing, meaning including the vest that she literally just got this morning. So I just want... Sorry, I'm going to be doing this quite a few times during this breakdown. I want to know the story behind this photo. Did Douglas take it this morning? Because again, she's wearing her exact outfit she's currently wearing with her brand new vest. Did he take it this morning, go and get it printed, and then go find her at the mall? Like, how did this photo come into being? Please explain. Vincent is also there, so he and Heather get on a bus so she can go home.
Fuck Facebook.
We're so edgy and topical. While they're chatting, Vincent mentions the character Leonard, and this will come in handy later. Also, earlier, Heather called her dad in a panic, saying that she was actively being stalked, and her dad was like, cool, I'm gonna come get you. And now she's just, casually strolling home. No rush, no concern, just what a day, am I right? There are no stakes in this scene, and there very much should be. Heather should be rushing to get to a phone to try to contact her dad or find out where he is, or rushing to just get home, but there's nothing. There is just no tension in this scene, and I'm very thrown by that. But yeah, I guess it's all fine. Until she gets home, walks through the door, and finds the cleanest blood penmanship I have literally ever seen. Who wrote this? How much time did you spend on this? Also, whose blood is this? In the game...
Dad? Dad?
Heather is very understandably upset. She breaks down and vows to get revenge. She then hears a noise and goes up to the roof to find Claudia, who admits to ordering the hit on Harry as a way to try and get her to come back to Silent Hill. Then the actual monster that took him out appears, and Heather kills it. Back downstairs, Douglas has entered and tries to comfort her as best he can. He agrees to take her to the town, and after an impromptu funeral, the pair head out. In the car ride, they drop some lore, the game now revealing that Heather is Cheryl from the first game, or I guess the baby made at the end of the first game if you got one of the good endings, which is why those good endings are now considered canon. Anyway, the pair stop at a motel, and Douglas plans to go find Leonard, while Heather will go to the hospital. With the movie changing who's dead and who isn't, Vincent now takes on Douglas's role and acts as Heather's escort to get her to Silent Hill. While I am not a fan of this change, in large part because I think adding any amount of romance to this franchise is super, super wrong, at least the role is still being filled, so it keeps a lot of the plot points from the game somewhat intact. Heather and Vincent talk in the apartment for a bit when the cops come.
You wanted probable cause? This is it. What the hell happened here? That look like a gang tank to you?
I don't think so. But I've never seen anything like it. Call crime scene, get him down here.
What about the girl?
She's a murder suspect.
What? What probable cause? And I'm sorry, gang activity? Look, I know they even say in the film, what kind of activity is it? But, like, this is just so laughably bad. Also, we never see these cops again. Like, this is it. They set up a whole plot line of Heather being wanted for murder, and then it's never followed up on. And this is actually a common trend in this movie, and it is something I find really frustrating. Heather and Vincent now have a lore share in the car before they get to the motel, and forced romance is forced. Heather then dreams of Alessa tearing stuff up, which, while semi-cool looking, is a pretty cliche style. She wakes up and has a heart-to-heart with Vincent that really reads like a soap opera. The dialogue and the acting just don't feel natural, and again, I will not blame the actors for this, especially considering what audiences know that they are capable of doing. Also, this shot during Vincent's monologue?
Evil of the world. She trapped us.
So bad. Vincent now gives her the seal of Metatron, and the motel then changes to the other world. The monster that took out Douglas appears, grabs Vincent, who tells her to find his grandpa Leonard, and knocks out Heather. This was a decent way to get Heather separated from her escort, like in the game, so I don't hate it. Heather wakes up to find that she's now alone, so she starts walking. Back in game, Heather's now in the hospital and goes through a lot of puzzles and clue finding in search of Claudia. She also comes across a bunch of dolls and notes from a guy named Stanley, who seems to be watching her. It is appropriately unsettling. She also gets this great phone call.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Oh, I forgot your name.
Who are you?
Oh, okay, thanks. Happy birthday, dear. Who are you? Happy birthday to you. Happy 31st birthday.
Is this Leonard?
That's the murderer's name, not my name. I'm not your beloved Stanley either. He's underground now. His new name is Number 7. But don't worry about that now. It's time to celebrate your birthday.
You've got me mistaken for someone else. Today's not my...
I'm not mistaken. Today is your 24th birthday. And I have a present for you. Which do you prefer? To give pain or to receive it? You can have the one you hate the most. Happy birthday to you!
But you're wrong. It's not my birthday.
Let's break this down quickly because I, like so many other Silent Hill fans, absolutely love this phone call. This unknown voice, taken at face value, can sound like he's just crazy and spouting nonsense, but he's not. For example, he doesn't know her name because, one, Heather is continuously hiding her identity and changing her name all the time, but also, two, Heather is a reincarnation of Alessa / of Cheryl. So, like, who is she really? We don't really know. She might not even really know. Also, the ages, 31 and 24. If Alessa had never died, she would now be 31. And Cheryl, if she had never died, would be 24. So it matches up. And it's just one of those little details that, like, I love this scene so much. It's so freaking fun. While here in the hospital, Heather finds Claudia's dad, Leonard. And he's exactly what we would expect. Oh no! Betrayed! I never would have guessed. So with him out of the way, Heather continues on and we see a scene of Claudia arguing with Vincent. They view the world and the cult differently and also see that Leonard super sucked and good riddance he is gone. Heather travels a little further and finds Vincent having just missed Claudia. Vincent tells her that Douglas left, but left a message for her to go to the church on the other side of the lake where Claudia is, and that the only way to get there is through the amusement park. Heather still does not trust him, but goes anyway. Before we talk about what happened there, let's jump back to the movie. Heather's movie entry into the town just feels unearned. Granted, the cult does want her to come, so it's not like they do anything to stop her. Also, Heather is just immediately in the fog world. How is Heather here? Heather also pretty immediately encounters Dahlia, who delivers some bad lines, dumps a bunch of lore about how Claudia plans to complete the ritual and revive Alessa, and then a siren goes off, so she tells Heather to run. Heather does and ends up inside of a warehouse. Now this warehouse is full of doll parts. There are also dolls that seem to be alive. Heather even encounters a girl on a slab and watches as she turns into a doll somehow. She then notices another girl trapped in a web and tries to free her without disturbing the nearby spider doll monster thing. Of course, this isn't helped by the fact that the two girls are constantly screaming the entire time. Like, maybe if you want to quietly escape without being noticed, be quiet. Just a thought. Heather frees Web Girl and they start to run while the doll monster climbs onto the new doll and, assault? Doll monster takes the new doll's head and starts to chase the girls. And, oh, the bad CGI they used to try to sell the 3D aspect of this film. Oh right, did you know that this was a 3D movie? Because this was a 3D movie back when so many studios were trying to make 3D movies because they thought that they were really cool. And boy, were they not. That was definitely a trend that just, like, should not have happened. Oh well. So the new girl tells Heather she ended up here because she got lost. Okay, not much of an explanation, but okay. Of course, the monster catches up, the two dive into an air duct to escape, and right when they think they're safe, the new girl gets grabbed while Heather just gasps and sits there. We jump cut to Vincent, now captured by Claudia, who is now his mom, and see Harry is also here. Why is Claudia just holding them here? I guess to lure Heather here, but let's talk about this weird altar layer thing she has. This looks like a set piece. A way too clean set piece. This just does not look like a real place. And Claudia's outfit does not feel like real clothes. She looks like she's cosplaying. Though another shout out to the lack of eyebrows, I still love that detail. And I could be wrong, but that looks like a cheap wig they tried to make look good, and it doesn't really. Definitely not the worst I've seen, but this whole place just doesn't do it for me. And the statue of Valtiel that Harry is chained to is probably the worst offender. This statue looks so clean and just not part of the environment. It also looks like it's made of plastic, and Silent Hill very much uses metal. Like, almost all of its, like, design and locations is metal. So this thing looking like plastic just reads cheap. Speaking of Valtiel, I do kind of appreciate that they sort of included him. In the game, players encounter Valtiel a few times, but usually don't interact with him directly. He is found lurking in different spots, like in the mall, turning a valve in the background of the hospital, hanging in the chapel, stuff like that. He does make an entrance at the end of the game, which we'll cover when we get to it, but it's theorized that the role he plays throughout is sort of as a guardian for Heather. For example, if Heather dies in the game, Valtiel will often appear and drag her body away, and people theorize it's in order to be able to revive her. He's also usually seen abusing other monsters, like the same kind that attack Heather. He's seen as a protector of the cult's god, and while his presence here is only that of a statue, at least acknowledging his existence is nice. I think if he had been a bigger part of the movie, it would have way too easily strayed into this, like, giant mystery protector role instead of someone who's just in the background. So I don't really mind them not including him more, but they still do include his role in the end in a way that I really don't like, but I will get to that in a bit. With Heather's new friend captured, she casually crawls out of the air duct to outside. No need to seal off that giant opening behind her because we will never see the doll monster again or encounter any more random lost girls. Glad that plot point was established. Seeing she's outside the asylum where she knows Leonard is, Heather makes her way inside. Now, the hospital feels a bit better, a bit more real, which I appreciate. That being said, this bit, the shadow passing in front of the camera while a big sound happens, this is cheap. So many horror movies do this, and it just bothers me every time. It really just feels like a cheap way to try to raise tension with the audience, and personally, I think it is way more effective if you concentrate on raising tension with the actual characters who are in that film. Like, if you're making them nervous and they are doing their job and being a good actor and able to convey that tension to us as the audience, then we will also feel that tension. But I feel like doing things like all these things of, oh, a shadow passing by, or like you see a ghost but like the character doesn't see the ghost, like whatever the thing is, it kind of is just like breaking the fourth wall of like trying to get a rise out of us, and personally it then takes me out of the story. I just don't think it is effective, and it's become so normalized that it's, at this point, it's just a big pet peeve to me. Granted, this is an older movie. It was still done a lot back then, but maybe not as much as it is now. But yeah, I really wish that the focus was kept more on the characters instead of trying to directly come at the audience. But that's my takeaway. Those are my personal preferences about that, and let's just get back into it. Also, Heather is so dumb for backing through this doorway. Like, do not ever go through a doorway backwards, especially if you are actively being hunted. Heather isn't immediately grabbed, though, shockingly, and does actually find Leonard.
Oh, there are many Silent Hills. Are you sure it's this one?
Okay, I won't lie. I love this line. Like, this is a fun line. That little handgun sure does pack a punch. My same complaint from before returns because Monster Leonard is also too clean. So are these bodies under the grate, and again, who are these people supposed to be? And wow, that hole sure is convenient. Free from that threat, Heather passes the human patients? Are these also supposed to be people who got lost and wandered into town, or have they been here all along? Like, who are they? And oh great, Pyramid Head is here again. Also, while the shot of Pyramid Head establishes that he's here, it didn't really give me anything. Like, in the first film, when they first showed him, he was treated as an active threat that caused Rose to run. But here, Heather's hiding and doesn't get found. I guess it pushed her into this room, which leads her to the next plot point room, but I also feel like she could have just found it anyway. Like, no hate to Pyramid Head being here, I just feel like he's not really being treated with the same gravitas that he should be in this moment if, like, we're introing him here. Also, again, I could be being overly harsh. That is very much possible, and like, I know I'm being overly critical throughout this entire film. I'm just trying to drive home the point that, like, there has to be a reason to show things. Otherwise, it just, like, doesn't make a good story, if that makes sense. In the next room are nurses, and this shot of the nurses is nice. I like it. Also, huge props to the backbench girlies because that is not a fun pose to hold. Two cultists come in, wheeling a strapped-down Vincent, and, why is the cult working with the monsters? And why are they surprised when it doesn't work out? And why are they moaning like that? Like, okay, the sexualization of the nurses makes sense in the Silent Hill 2 video game, and only the Silent Hill 2 game. Like, there is a point, and even there, they do not go anywhere near as far as they are in this movie. Like, this really feels like just some dude was like, it'd be really hot to add some moaning in the scene. And, like, I'm sorry, whoever did this, if I ever find you, I'm gonna smack you, because this is really stupid. But now Vincent is trapped and needs to be saved. So Heather, how the frick did Heather get in here without being seen? She's, like, on the far end of the room. Whatever. Heather starts interrogating Vincent and eventually goes to free him, but again, isn't exactly quiet about it. You have established that these monsters respond to sound, so stop screaming! Not you flipping the curtain like it's some epic moment. Vincent and Heather make it out and get to the amusement park. Video game time! At the amusement park, we see Douglas confronting Claudia. He's mad that he was used to get to Heather, but Claudia's all, oh, but God, blah blah blah, religious psychosis, and Douglas is not having it. He aims his gun at her, and we fade to black. Back with Heather, she visits the roller coaster from the opening, and this time manages to avoid death. Hurrah! So then she goes and finds Douglas on the ground, bleeding. He shares that he was a bad dad, and that his son died, and he feels responsible. He and Heather have a really sweet moment before she goes off to kill Claudia, promising to return to him after. Right before she leaves, Douglas points out that killing Heather could end all of this right here, and Heather agrees. But he doesn't go through with it, and she walks off. Honestly, such good writing. Heather and Douglas's connection throughout the game is so good, and the writing for everyone is pretty top tier. While I get the change of changing Vincent to be the escort in the movie instead of Douglas required Douglas to be then removed from the story, it was just done to force this romantic subplot, and instead of keeping this, like, parent-child relationship, and I feel like it just missed the mark. Speaking of, the fact that it was a parent-child relationship, I feel was one of the major themes to this entire story, like, from the first to this third game. The first game was a parent fighting to get their child back. Their child that was a child of Alessa, who in turn was a child abused by her parent, who wanted her to birth a god, aka be a parent. Then this game is that reincarnated child having lost her adoptive parent and being stalked by a cult that not wants her to be the parent of a god. And this child then finds an adult who ends up like a parent to her, who is also a parent who has lost his child. I know phrasing it this way was, like, super confusing, but I just wanted to drive home the point of how much the entire story focuses on parents and children. Like, it's the entire plot to some of these people. So changing the movie to instead have this, like, romantic subplot is both inappropriate, in my opinion, but also just kind of misses one of the major themes of this whole two-parter story. Anyway, the game continues with Heather going to the carousel. She attacks the horses, and then Dark Alessa appears. They fight, Heather wins, and she's off to find Claudia. Also, I like that we went back to the carousel like in the first game where we fought Sybil. It's a nice little tie-in. In the movie, things go roughly the same way. We get more forced romance as Vincent decides to risk himself in order for Heather to get to Claudia, only for Heather to realize, oh my god, I dreamed that this would happen. Rip to this fish, and... I'm sorry, what is this Robbie shot? What was this supposed to do? She has this moment of resolve while looking at Robbie, and, like, I guess Dream Robbie in the intro, like, doesn't have blood on it, and now it does, so I don't know if, like, that was supposed to trigger something, but, like, this touches on one of my main issues with this movie. It really feels like someone created a bunch of shots and scenes that they thought looked really cool, but, like, didn't think about how to tie them together or to justify their existence. Yes, movies are moving pictures, so we often do want them to look cool, and there are tons of, like, very experimental, artsy films that really just focus on the image. But this is not supposed to be one of those. This is a movie based on a game that has a plot. A good one. And this adaptation just doesn't seem to care to really, like, buckle down and tell that story. I won't go so far as to saying it's not telling a story, because, like, I do feel like, yes, technically there is a plot here, but the way they handle it makes it feel, like, so hollow, like, almost like the whole thing is a farce. I don't feel tension. I don't feel scared. I don't wonder and worry about the fates of the characters, and I'm not thinking about, oh, what's gonna happen next? Like, it just feels so slapdash together that I just do not believe that the writer or director or producers, someone in there, I just don't feel like they cared about telling a good story. It feels like whoever was in charge at the end of the day wanted a bunch of terrible 3D action shots, which this movie did give, so, like, I guess success there, but at the expense of, like, what could have been a decent adaptation. The Silent Hill games have plenty of action, but the action is never the point. The point is the lore, the puzzles of why things are happening, of trying to rescue something, of dealing with trauma often. And this movie just misses all of that. It uses the trappings of drama to try to connect a bunch of unconnected monster encounters and action shots. And to me, it then just fails as an adaptation. But we're not done yet, so let's get back to it, because why is Pyramid Head spinning the carousel? I can't. I will say I like this shot. Granted, they overuse it, but it's still a cool shot. And hey, Alyssa's here, and it's kind of an anticlimactic entrance. Heather and Dark Alyssa talk, and the dialogue is so clunky. They talk about identity and whatnot, and then have a hug fight. Heather and Dark Alyssa merge, with Heather now coming to terms with her identity, and with that, she's off to face Claudia one final time. These finales are a bit different, but most of the plot points kind of match. Kinda. In the game, Heather finds Claudia in the church and says Alyssa's fine with the current world and doesn't want a new one, but Claudia disagrees. Heather doubles over in pain, and Claudia leaves, commenting that God is growing within you. Because, yeah, Heather's having contractions for the demon baby god in her. Fun. Heather then finds Vincent in the library, and here's where he delivers one of the most famous lines in the series.
The monsters?
Monsters? They look like monsters to you? Oh no. Don't worry. It's just a joke.
Ooh, the video essays on this line, because, like, is he messing with her? Or does he mean it? Has Heather been fighting actual people this entire time? Or is it something else? Like, I love it. It's so good. I'm also really sad that they left this part out of the movie. Like, I feel like the movie, while it does talk about identity of, like, who is Heather really? I don't feel like they went into it anywhere as deeply as they did in the game, because, I mean, this line of Vincent kind of causing Heather to question everything that's happening, I think is really good, because, again, it's having Heather just, like, question the world around her. I also think by cutting out that phone call in the hospital, it's also further cutting out, like, her struggle with this. So again, it just ties back into, I think this movie is focusing way too much on action versus, like, the actual psychological aspect that is Silent Hill. So Vincent gives her a book and pieces out. Later, Heather finds Vincent and Claudia arguing in the chapel. When his back is turned, Claudia actually stabs Vincent, who falls to the floor dying. RIP. Heather and Claudia argue about life and the world, and Vincent tells Heather to use the seal of Metatron. But Claudia reveals that that thing does not do anything, then gives Vincent the old kill shot. Cold. But Heather's got another trick up her sleeve. She takes a pill from her locket. A pill of the same stuff that was in the vial Kaufman chucked at Alessa in the final encounter in the first game, and Heather throws up the demon god fetus thing. Claudia then eats the fetus! Absolutely disgusting. In order to birth the god herself. Claudia goes through a hole in the floor, and Heather follows. Inside is the final boss form of demon god Claudia thing. And hey, there's Valtiel! Yep, he really seems to be acting like the guardian of this cult god. Anyway, Heather takes it out and then heads back to Douglas in the amusement park. Now, what happens here depends a bit on player choices, because Heather could be possessed and actually take out Douglas here. But hopefully people made good choices, and instead Heather just pretends to be possessed before telling Douglas it was all a prank. Douglas justifiably calls Heather out, saying how messed up that is, before Heather says that she's actually going to go back to being called Cheryl, the name her dad gave her. They have some laughs, and the game ends on a nice light note. In the movie, Heather confronts Claudia at the same altar we've seen already in wherever this is supposed to be, and Claudia just isn't doing it for me. Claudia is so twisted and evil in the games, and feels just so meh in this. I think if Claudia had been more established throughout the movie as she was in the game, it really would have helped her character here. Because, like, Claudia in the game keeps actively running into Heather and, like, taunting her. Also, in the game, Claudia killed her dad. I mean, not directly, but, like, she ordered that hit on Heather's father, which ignited this entire, like, bloody quest for revenge in Heather. And I feel like here, because instead she just, like, kidnapped her dad, which is still bad, and still a reason for Heather to go after her, it's just, like, not the same tone, and, like, the not as extreme and, like, I don't know, severe of a reason as in the game. This is also when it's revealed that Claudia is actually the monster that killed Douglas and kidnapped Vincent earlier. But this reveal is trash, and it just makes no sense. What do you mean we have people who can transform into the monsters? Why? Why? Pyramid Head then steps in to protect Heather, I guess? This is what I hinted at earlier with Valtiel's role. It seems like they replaced his role of being a guardian to the cult's god with Pyramid Head, which, okay. Pyramid Head has the recognition already, so I kind of see it, but this not only isn't game lore accurate, but it's not even first movie lore accurate. Like, who made this decision? Monster Claudia and Pyramid Head then proceed to fight, and boy is it stupid. Someone definitely just wanted a big monster fight scene as the finale, and it shows. Pyramid Head eventually manages to behead Monster Claudia, who screams after she's been decapitated. Sure. And oh yay, everything's good now. Doesn't matter that we saw other cultists around, they were just decoration and literally do not do anything, so we can just jump to the end. As Heather, Chris, and Vincent start to leave Silent Hill, they chat, and wow, this wrap-up dialogue is so bad.
The Order's power is broken. Alessa's nightmare is over. She's gone.
Another one will come. It's still a place of lost souls.
But anyway, Chris tells them that he's going to stay behind in order to find Rose. So that leaves Heather and Vincent, who walk along the road until they get picked up by a truck driver, and oh my god, it is Travis from Silent Hill Origins. I'm not even gonna pretend, I absolutely love this Travis cameo. Like, I 100% really fully and truly love that they put this in here. I do not love the dialogue, though.
So where are you two lovebirds heading?
Lovebirds? These two kids are messy, dirty with torn clothes, and have very visibly been through something. And this is your reaction? Like, I'm sorry, this is just so unrealistic. But whatever. They drive off and... what's this? Some cop cars escorting a prison bus? Yep, it's a reference to Silent Hill Downpour. I also love this. Even though I do not love that game, I absolutely love this little nod to the game. And that's it! Oh my god, we made it! I feel like I don't have a lot of analysis to add here, because I think I was more consistent on giving it throughout. Plus, I really just don't want to spend more time ripping into it than I already have. Ugh. Lies! Okay, not a lie, but I will get more into it. The main reason I think this movie fails as an adaptation is because the themes from the game were too badly weakened. While this movie still has the bond between parent and child explored, with Heather's driving force being her dad, the fact that it's not a tale of revenge changes the overall tone. Additionally, by replacing Douglas with Vincent, we lose that parent-child motif as discussed previously. We do still have it in terms of Christopher's character reflecting on Heather in the beginning, and with Heather's fight to free her dad, but that theme is still overall lessened by barely being shown in the actual film, since the main relationship we watch is Heather playing lovebirds with Vincent. There's also the main theme of obsession. While the cult represents obsession in both games and movies, Silent Hill 3 also explored it with the theme of revenge, seeing as revenge is a form of obsession. By keeping Christopher alive and removing Heather's quest for revenge, we again see one of the major themes from the game being downplayed. Another major theme in the game is that of identity. Heather wants to be her own person, while the Order just wants to use her as an incubator to their god. I mean, one of Alessa's boss forms in the first game is literally called Incubator. In fact, I think removing Heather's pregnancy really hurt the film by making the exploration of identity way more shallow. The game has Heather dealing with a forced pregnancy, so a lack of bodily autonomy, and her individuality was constantly being challenged from the phone call guy, Vincent, Claudia, and even Douglas when he considers taking her out. Heather is constantly fighting to be seen as her own person, but by removing so many interactions with characters who only see her as Alessa, as a tool they can use for their own gains, we lose so much of this theme of identity. Take Vincent, for instance. His game counterpart only sees her as a tool he can use to get what he wants, namely to prevent the birth of the cult god. There are hints he may have even been planning on killing Heather once he was done with her, as evidenced by this photo of Heather found in-game with the note, "Find the Holy One, kill her," on it, and when, while arguing with Claudia, he says, "What do I want? Well, for the two of you to die. That would be nice." Which could mean Claudia and the cult god, or it could mean Claudia and Heather. Vincent does not see Heather as a person, only as a tool, just like almost everyone else Heather encounters in-game. Silent Hill 3 also focuses heavily on the cycle of death and rebirth, which the film does touch on, but most of the deaths we actually encounter lack any real deep connection. The only major characters who die in the movie are Douglas, whose role is reduced to the point of not having any relationship, and Claudia, the barely present villain, so this theme of death is not all that deep. The part about rebirth is somewhat explored, with Heather and Alessa merging on the carousel, but that's kinda it. No god births or demon pregnancies or anything else. So for all of these reasons and everything else I mentioned, I personally do not consider Silent Hill Revelation to be a good adaptation. The first movie may have also lessened some of the themes and definitely made a lot of changes, but they still gave a film that felt way more grounded to the source material. This does bring me to the upcoming movie Return to Silent Hill, which I am so excited! It is supposed to drop later this year, and I will definitely be doing a follow-up video after. So that's that! This was a massive video. The script alone was 19 pages, and even so, I feel like there are probably things that I've missed, but there was so much to cover. If there's anything that you guys liked, didn't like, agreed with, didn't agree with, please let me know in the comments down below. Also, I want to do videos like this for every single live-action adaptation, and if there's one that you really want me to cover next, please let me know. I would love to know what you guys want to see, and also, it honestly makes my job easier because there are like 60, I think, right now, roughly, adaptations, and that's so many. That's so many to get through. So if you tell me which ones you want next, hey, that makes it so much easier for me. But with all of that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!
Shout out and thank you to all my patrons and Twitch subs. New merch is available. Use the links down below to grab yourself some swag, and more is in the works. Thank you all for watching. Bye!